can you tell us about your character, Sasha?
So Sasha is a former Navy intelligence officer. She's been detailed. She's worked in defense intelligence. She has a lot of ground experience working with SEALs, doing a lot of reconnaissance and a lot of tactical work on the ground. When we meet her, she's working in New China, as we're calling it, sort of as an advisor in a somewhat diplomatic role. We have to understand that the lines between relations and government, they've been grayed. You know, this is a really chaotic world, and everyone's just trying to keep their head above water, so to speak. So Sasha's doing her best as she can in this environment that's really hard to figure out. And she's reunited with Tom Chandler, who she goes way back with him. They have a past, and Sasha boards the Nathan James, and her skills are put to use. She's an expert in the region. So far, I've spoken 6 languages on the show. So at times she works as a translator. At times she works as a, she's lending her hand wherever she can. Tactical, medical help. We see her on the ground with serious weapons in her hand. She's really skilled. She's no damsel in distress. And she's ready to aid, and she trusts Tom completely. So she's just ready. When he says jump, she says how high.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. At the same time, she can give him a hard time when she wants to, because she has that relationship with him and the
That's
smarts.
true.
I think that you guys probably would have stayed together had you not been both wanting to drive the car.
I think that's fair enough. I mean, Sasha is not without. I mean, she's got
Doesn't
a
mean
strong.
she can't be vulnerable. It just
Yeah.
means that they're both
Yeah.
A-type, and
She's got a strong head on her shoulders, and she's really opinionated. She's confident in what she does. She knows what she's doing.
and he respects that. They all respect that.
And she, because of her past with Tom, she doesn't necessarily adhere to the protocol all the time, which is one of my favorite things about her. That sometimes she doesn't think before she speaks. And she's ready to challenge Tom in a way that no one else on the ship ever has, which is a lot of fun to play. And it's very fun to rattle Eric.
I just came up with the first scene for next season for you, by the way.
Okay, great.
It's very cool.
I can't wait to hear it.
Very cool.
What can you tell us about the immunes? Obviously, in season 2, those who are immune naturally to the virus have risen up. They have leaders from, I want to say, Ireland or Scotland, and he's trying to basically take over the world. What are we going to see as far as the evolution of the immunes kind of rising up in season 3?
Well, at the end of the last season, we took down Sean and Ned, the leaders of the Immune Army and the cult of the Immunes. The president himself was an Immune, sort of got deprogrammed and realized that we're all Americans. Anyone who was in the violent wing of the Immune, and it was a small percentage of immunes, became sort of hooked into this religion of like maybe we're better than everybody else. They sort of blended back into the population. The leaders, though, were captured, arrested, or granted immunity in exchange for laying down their weapons. And so when this season begins, it's actually, we open up with a really nice introduction to what America looks like. And what America looks like is people trying to rebuild. I mean, people coming out of hiding, people coming to get the cure, and then, okay, once you get the cure taken care of, once you got your life, you're not going to die from the virus in a horrible way. It's picking up the pieces. You know, Sasha says to Chandler, everyone lost something in the fire. Meaning, like, she lost a husband, he lost a wife, and, you know, people lost children, they lost cousins, they lost friends, they lost coworkers, they lost communities. And so now it's how do you pick up the pieces? And so the president is now ensconced in St. Louis because it's been the natural place to set up shop, the center of the country more or less, has access to the waterways, and that's where the cure arrived. So the country is now sort of in a rebuilding phase. And just like there are no nations and states internationally, the lines were blurred in America as well, because certain areas became dead zones, certain areas became places of refuge. Certain people rose to the top, not just because they're immune, but because they were smarter, stronger, richer, luckier, whatever. And so natural selection sort of happened where like, well, now this person is basically like, well, like the mayor of St. Louis was the guy who kept 200,000 people alive. We made him, part of the central government because he was such an important part of our world. Elsewhere, there are other people like that, leaders who sort of arose from the ashes, and we said, okay, we're going to need your help. You have influence in the Northwest. You have influence in New York. You have influence in Texarkana. We're going to deliver a cure to you. You'll get it out to your people. Same thing happens in Asia. Oh, China has a new leader. According to Sasha, he's not the nicest guy, but he does get things done. Trains run on time sort of guy. There are rumors about him how he became powerful, but right now all we have to worry about is he's a partner we have to trust to get the cure across Asia because we can't do it ourselves. We only have a few Navy ships and a few sailors left, and fuel and all that stuff has to get done. So it has to be a team effort. Some people aren't playing by the same rules. So there are people in America who aren't playing by the same rules and people overseas who aren't playing by the same rules. So this causes conflict both at home and overseas. And all the while, the risk is, well, maybe if the virus is mutating, maybe that's going to create another pandemic. So there are a lot of high stakes, but it's really about, every season's been about exploring how do humans behave in certain situations. And right now it's reconstruction. It's devastation. We're used to the lights being on and having internet and having fresh water. Well, guess what? If there's not enough people to run the power plant and the electric station and the sewage plant, we'll be sitting around campfires. I know when my power goes out for a couple days, and suddenly we're by candlelight, we're set back to the 19th century just like that. Imagine if that was quasi-permanent in your region. And so then a guy comes around and says, I can make that better for you. Follow my plan. And then suddenly it's not a democratic plan, but you might have 3 square meals and electric light. This is what we're talking about. So it's a big, complicated, ugly, messy world, and they got to figure out how to navigate through it. Great.